Welcome back to the channel. This is Maintain Me, and what we like to do on this channel is teach everybody about what it looks like to age in place or even through the care continuum in independent living, assisted living, memory care. We're kind of your one-stop shop for senior care. So if that's what you're looking for, please feel free to hit the subscribe button down below, thumbs up, whatever you need to stay in touch with all these new educational videos that we will be releasing. We're doing a video a week. We started about a month ago now. One video a week on all these different topics. And of course, if there's things that you're interested in that we haven't covered, please let us know. Comment down below. We will put in your specific topics if you let us know what you're most interested in. So today we're going to be talking about 5 things that you must know about assisted living. And the first one we're going to be talking about is that not all levels of care are equal. So talk to us about kind of how that's different.
Yeah. So every assisted living is going to have either a base price for the apartment, depending on the size of the apartment. But when it comes to care, that's where it looks different from community to community. And the majority of them in a whole does a point-based system. And that point-based system is done off of a care plan that their nurse will do. They'll go do an assessment, determine what your needs are. And depending on what every individual need you have, builds a point system for that. And then it puts you into a tier with those points, and that really just determines exactly what you'll be paying for your level of care. And again, that looks different.
Yeah, so the other thing too, this is what we hear from our clients all the time. Well, what level of care will they fall into? Unfortunately, that's not a really easy thing to talk about because there is no standardization of what that looks like between communities. And also, it's so specific on that person that until you've chosen them, then they go and do the assessment and then technically choose your loved one or yourself if you're looking in this area. And they kind of go through saying, okay, based off what you need, this is what we think. And then they also pair that with what you want and the doctor necessity on the orders and all of that. So the other thing that we don't see often, but we still see, are levels of care being spelled out. Mm-hmm. And so, for instance, it would say if you need, showers twice a week and you need help with food and you need, escorts to and from the meals, that it would be this price. That is so rare anymore that most of the time what we see is what Desiree's talking about is that point system. But there are some instances where you do see those old school kind of levels of care
grouped together,
very specific. Yeah. And we don't see that much. So if you are looking and you're like, where am I going to fall? We always do the assessment based off of what's the minimal amount of care that you're going to go into and what the max is, and make sure that you can afford both, because that way we know that as you age in place, we're respecting you financially from the beginning all the way to the end. And so, that kind of helps as far as alleviate some of those fears around cost.
Exactly.
Okay, the second thing that we're going to tell you that you have to know about assisted living is the difference between community fees and deposits.
And this can get confusing. So community fees and deposits are going to differ from community to community, and not all of them are equal. One will only take just a deposit and the other one will take a community and a deposit. So it's very important to ask these questions when you're meeting with the community of your choice. What does a community fee cover? And is it refundable? What does the deposit cover? And is that refundable? And if they are refundable, is there a timeline you have to work with when the refundable portion does come into play? So it's very important to ask those questions. And that's one reason why we're here, is because we ask those hard questions, and those questions we tend to forget about once we get into the community and start touring.
Yeah, and this is another thing. No standardization in this. This is based off the community once again, which is why we think it's important to talk about. The thing that we typically see, so this is kind of the normal, not to say that there are not any in between, because there's a lot of gray in between. The normal is that the community is a one-time non-refundable fee that you go into the community. It pays for the nurse doing the assessment, building the care plan, getting the apartment ready and turned around, all of that. And so it's kind of like when you're going into an apartment and you usually pay last month's up front. It's like that, but we're in a much larger monthly cost area with senior care. And so they don't charge you usually the whole month up front. Usually they'll give you little discounts. There are still people that will charge you the whole month. So not always is it going to be a discount, but they usually range anywhere between $500 all the way up to half month's rent. And then some rare ones where it's an actual full month's rent up front. Now, deposits are something where maybe you just want to kind of put down a deposit on a room, and that is typically not, that is refundable because it's a lower amount typically, right? We'll
Yeah,
see like $500 to hold the room. You have X amount of time to let them know before you put the security deposit down. So that's typical, but again, like Desiree said, there's so much gray in between there that it really just comes down to asking the right questions. Okay, the third thing that you have to know about assisted living is going to be that you don't actually have to have care needs to go into assisted living.
Yeah, actually, we have a lot of clients who are just looking for support, for community. They don't necessarily need medication management
Right.
or reminders. They're 100% independent, but they want that community feel. And that means you get to choose where you live. And it's the best opportunity to do so early on in the process
Right.
because you have more time to make that decision and make that decision with a clear head, knowing, hey, I got this. I don't need any care, but this is what I'm looking for. And in the long run, this is what I want to see happen when I do need that care. So
Yeah.
you don't need that. And the other beautiful thing about that is, too, with being independent and moving into an assisted living, your community gets that much bigger
Yeah.
and that support gets that much stronger. So
Yeah. The thing that people ask us is, well, why would I do that? Why would I move into an assisted living if I don't have any care? Well, just like Desiree say, you are planning for the future. Now, if you go into independent living, it's not that much cheaper than you going into assisted living without the care because you can go in with no care cost. And so we used to see independent livings being a lot cheaper. We don't always see that anymore. And we don't know why that has increased so much in comparison to assisted living because it isn't equal right now. They're not increasing at the same cost necessarily. We have seen independent living sneak up a little bit more than the growth of assisted living. Now, when you go into independent living, you might love it then and you might not need the care. But what happens when you do? You then have to usually either get home care to come in and that's an additional cost, which is more unreliable and a little bit more money. Or you're going to have to move anyways. So a lot of people will choose to go into assisted living first with zero care costs and then be able to add on the care as they need it versus having to make that move again. Even if you find a CCRC, a continual system where it has independent living, assisted living, and memory care, if you go in the independent side, they will sell you on saying, hey, you can age in place here, but you're still going to be moving from that independent side to the assisted living side, which is still a move and gets harder and harder as we age. Okay, the fourth thing you need to know is going to be that you can actually have other services in assisted living.
Exactly. So you don't have to just be in a box of the care that they do provide. And if there's something that you need and they don't provide it, then you have to move. That's not necessarily true. You can also bring in hospice, you can bring in home care, you can bring in home health to provide those additional services that that particular assisted living may not offer you. But some of them do have in-house physical therapy,
Right.
occupational therapy, but in the event that they don't, you can still bring in those outside care services to continue living in your home without having to move.
Yeah, you just brought up a really good point. When assisted living tells you that they have in-home care services, which is going to be your nursing, physical therapy, occupational therapy, social worker, speech therapist, and certified nurse assistant. Say they have those, like, oh yeah, we have those on site. That does not mean that you have to choose that. These are services that are provided and make it easier, but anything that's covered under insurance, you have choice. And so if it's going to be hospice or home health care, those are the two things we typically see additionally from other care services in assisted living. You still have choice because it is being ran through your insurance. It is a covered service. Now, if you are going to go towards home care where you have maybe you need more help in the morning than the caregivers are able to give you, or it just makes more sense cost-wise to have somebody come in and have that custodial care versus having somebody on site, those are going to be private pay costs, and those two are going to be by choice, but they can still come in, but you're going to be tacking that on the care cost. Whereas the covered stuff is going to go on your insurance. It's not going to be additional care costs on top of the care you're getting in assisted living. So it's a lot of words. It's very confusing. There's a ton of services that can come in and alleviate some of the things or help through transition. We actually even offer a couple things to help people transition into the space and then also be that support for them, like our finishing touch program where we follow people over there. We stay in touch with people just to make sure things are going well, help them communicate, acclimate to their new surroundings, meet friends, things like that. So there are external services that come in and really help with this transition because we know that this is not an easy transition in life. Okay, the fifth and last thing that we're going to talk about that you have to know if you're moving into assisted living is going to be what age can you go into assisted living?
So, and that's going to depend on the community, truly. There are some great communities out there that provide assisted living for as young as 18 years old. And they specialize in that younger age population, 18 to 55. And then you have your more traditional 55 and older, and then your very more traditional 65 and older. So the great thing about that is you have options. And everybody loves options. You have to have a
Absolutely.
choice. So it really doesn't matter what age you are, because we have such a great community here that they provide assisted living for all ages. Now it's, how do we find that? Well, and that's why we're here,
Yeah.
to help you find that community that fits not only your financial bracket, but your age, your needs, and your wants.
The other thing too is a good assisted living will also look at kind of what their environment looks like. Maybe
Mhm.
they do have more older adults in their 80s. Maybe their average age is 80. We'll ask them, what is your average age here? Would this person fit into this community? Will they have friends who have been through the same things as them? And so we do start to see some assisted livings, specialize in certain age groups just because of who is currently living there, not necessarily because of what their caregivers are capable of, or even how they're licensed with the state, but really just they say, this is a more active home, or this home, we do have a higher acuity. They might need more care. Maybe your person who is reliant on a wheelchair later in life would fit in really well here.
Mhm.
They won't be alone in that space. So it's not only what they're licensed as and kind of their specialty, but also kind of where we come into play is, will they fit in here as well? Because the age is one thing, but it also depends on kind of what your life looks like, and we have friends that share those commonalities, because that is what it's about, is trying to kind of just create that community. Yes. And so that's the big thing about assisted living, and you're only as old as you feel. And so sometimes it also comes down to what we're able to do and the functionality of our lives, and what we can participate in. So okay, we've talked about 5 things that you have to know about assisted living. Please let us know if you have any questions. At Maintain Me, we do consulting, case management, transition to senior services. We do education on YouTube. We are part of COPRA, Colorado Placement Referral Alliance. We just want to make sure that we know what's going on in the community, that we're educating ourselves, and therefore also educating you guys to make the best decisions for your life. And we want to come aside you with that. So we're going to put our phone number down in the comments below. Please let us know if you need anything. We do these videos for you. Bye.